Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Anne-Marie Green. We're going to take you straight to Hong Kong now, where police are threatening protesters to leave the legislative chamber or face, quote, appropriate force. So demonstrators are protesting against a controversial extradition bill during the city's annual pro-democracy march. They've hung a British colonial flag over a desk and spray-painted slogans on the wall of the building. The Hong Kong protests come on the 22nd anniversary of the former British colony's return to China. So there are typically demonstrations on this day, but this year's demonstrations have been bolstered by the ongoing protests against this extradition bill. Around 9 p.m. Hong Kong time, protesters smashed open a glass wall of the legislature building and then eventually were able to get inside. For a period of time, there were police inside the building kind of holding the protesters at bay, and then the police officers retreated, allowing the demonstrators to basically run through the building. And what you're seeing right there is, you know, the legislative room right there, where you can see protesters have completely taken over. They've been inside for a couple of hours now, and our producer on the ground there in Hong Kong says that police are warning that in the next 15 minutes or so, they will be approaching. They will be entering the legislative building. They have asked other demonstrators outside of the building to disperse. And, you know, we don't know what appropriate force means. What we've been seeing thus far with these protests is certainly the use of tear gas. So that's a possibility as well. And, you know, many of these demonstrators are actually prepared for that. They have masks, they have water to sort of flush out their eyes. They've seen this before. So, you know, what's the deal here? What are they protesting against? Well, we mentioned this extradition bill. The concern over this bill is that it would allow residents of Hong Kong to be extradited to China to face prosecution. At the center of this whole thing is actually a murder case. It involves a Hong Kong resident who murdered his girlfriend in Taiwan and then returned to Hong Kong. That's initially why this bill was written up, or this piece of legislation was written up, but it's taken on a whole other thing now. The Hong Kong legislature agreed to permanently set aside the legislation, right? To table it and not debate it, but that is not good enough for the protesters. They want to ensure that it never returns in any form. They want this legislation ripped up, and they're also calling for the executive of Hong Kong, Carrie Lam, to resign. So that is where we are at right now. Beijing has watched and really not intervened, but how they will continue to react as developments unfold remains to be seen. So, sorry, can you say that again? I'm just getting some numbers. Okay, apparently there are 550,000 people protesting throughout Hong Kong. So this is massive. I think there's only like maybe 7 million people in Hong Kong. I'll have to double check that, but this is massive. And these protests have been going on for a while now. And, you know, in Hong Kong, the demonstrators have had some success in forcing the legislators to bend to their will at other times. And so they are not willing to sort of back down. You see the umbrella there. A number of these protests are actually known as the umbrella protests, and they've been going on for years now. But these past few weeks have seen a significant uptick in people taking to the streets, people demanding change, and people demanding the preservation of democracy. One of their biggest issues with Carrie Lam is that they feel that she, you know, is not in that position because of any sort of democratic process, that she was appointed and placed in that position by Beijing, and they do not like that. She has expressed, perhaps, you know, she's expressed sympathy actually towards the protesters, and actually has not been particularly critical, but that may not help her maintain her position. So listen, we're going to continue to cover what's going on here. We've been told that the police will approach in the next 10 minutes or so. So as things unfold in Hong Kong, we will revisit this legislative building. I presume that it's going to take them a while to enter the building and determine what their plan of action is going to be. The cameras are rolling, so there's only so much they're going to be able to get away with. We'll take a little bit of a break right now.